Hi there, I'm John Bradley from Outside Magazine. I'm here with Devin Walton from Shimano, who's going to talk to us about some exciting new Shimano road products for 2009. So this is the Stealth Shimano Dura Ace bike, and as you can see, cosmetically it looks quite a bit like the stuff we were just looking at, but in practice it's quite a bit different. So why don't you walk us through a little bit of that?
I think that's a really important point. Road enthusiasts are very traditional by nature, and the last thing we want to do is basically create something that takes you, it's such a departure that you can't feel comfortable with it. And first of all, looking at it, you don't see a lot of difference. It's true, but when you compare it weight-wise, that's another great thing, is you don't see a lot of difference. There's also a minimal weight difference between the electronic upgrade to that system as well. And then actuation is also very similar and very familiar. So for example, when we come up to the shifter system, that main shift is this larger button here, and then this inner trigger is almost, or release lever is almost identical to the mechanical system. So anybody who's familiar with a dual control lever from our mechanical systems is going to be able to transfer that same feel, intuitive feel, right into this system as well. And that was an interface that we didn't want to change. We've made sure that even though these electronic buttons really are just that, we made sure that they actually have some movement to them too, to give the rider feedback, so that you know when you've completed a shift.
Right.
It's sort of that human factor. By basically offering an electronic system, we didn't lower our quality standards, saying that, well, we're going to give you this, but it's a fragile system. It can't, we made sure that it could withstand all the same kind of rigors that a mechanical system will. So that means you can take it out in the rain like you would a mechanical system. You can get it dirty like a mechanical system. And what's one of the worst things that happens? Well, sometimes you crash when you ride a bike. Sometimes you might fall down or something like that.
Right.
And if you do, and you knock something a little bit out of alignment, if you can get back and recover on a mechanical system, this is designed to meet those same standards as far as durability. And in fact, what we've done is we've actually created a little adjustment box here, which this is multi-purpose. One is that it'll tell you your battery life, first of all, just by holding down one of these buttons. If you hold it down for a few seconds, it'll light up an LED, and so that solid green means that it has a full charge, and it'll change that color at about 25% intervals, telling you kind of what your battery life is.
Okay.
But there's also the secondary button here that if you hold this down, and you can do this while you're riding, as long as you're in a safe place, and
right,
you don't want to do this in traffic or in the middle of a peloton, right? But basically, you can hold this down, and then this will light up red. And once you've done that, now you can micro adjust that rear derailleur or back and forth, just like you would with an adjusting barrel for a cable, so that you can fine tune it. So if you've taken a spill and it knocks the rear derailleur a little bit out of adjustment, like the hanger gets bent or something, then you can readjust that
by flicking the buttons.
Just up and down is like turning an adjusting barrel inward or outward.
Okay.
And then when you're done, just hold the button down again, and then this returns to shift mode.
And you were talking about the battery there. I think one automatic question that a lot of people are going to have is battery life on this.
Absolutely. That's a big thing, and I think that we all have experiences with batteries that aren't always positive, and especially when I hold this out and I say, this right here is kind of what makes this whole thing work. But this incorporates a lot of the most current battery technology. It's a 7.2 volt lithium-ion battery that actually, very conservatively speaking, is good for about 1,000 miles per charge. So if you're riding a lot, maybe you need to put it in your schedule to recharge once a week. Okay, so, and then it's also got a recharge life of about 300 full integrity charges. So then that means maybe after about 300,000 miles, you may not get as great a charge as you've had when it was new. It doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean it needs to be replaced, but it may not charge quite as much. But the bottom line is, one of the reasons why this battery can last so long is that there's an intelligent circuitry that's built into the system that actually allows it to power down in between shifts, because it doesn't actually need to expend any energy when you're not shifting.
Sure.
So if you're riding across Nebraska, then your battery's going to last longer than if you're riding through the Alps.
Sorry about that, Nebraska.
So your battery life is completely dependent upon how many times you shift.
Okay. And then you were. Well, I think maybe let's get a couple of shifts here on camera so people can see how this works. Because one of the things I love is the sound. It's kind of
I'll pedal it for you.
Okay. The sound on the front derailleur is kind of like the door opening on the Enterprise. It's Getting that.
And here's, I'll show you something interesting. If you go all the way to the largest cog on the rear, now watch the shift inward to, or outward to inward on the front.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to watch the front derailleur. Go ahead and shift it. Now you see that first movement, and now there's a second movement.
Yeah.
So what it's doing there is it's actually, it's shifting down, but it's not shifting all the way with the first stroke. What it's doing is it's watching that chain, because when you're in that gear, you're climbing a hill and you said, oh my gosh, I'm out of gears on the rear.
Right.
And so you've got a lot of load on it, and it's watching the chain so that it doesn't drop it onto the bottom bracket. And then once it's gotten down to that, once it knows the chain is seated, then it recenters it on the chain ring.
So dropping your chain is really, it's never going to happen with this
It's a
system.
thing of the past, yeah.
And you know, when we were out riding, you were talking to me about should your battery ever die, which it shouldn't, because as you said, it lasts quite a long time. But I think a lot of people are afraid that it's just going to seize up
Sure.
in whatever gear you're in all of a sudden, and you're explaining to me that that's not really the case.
Right. I mean, I think that, again, we sort of think that something dramatic might occur if the battery goes dead or something. The reality is that it just means that whatever gear it completely loses power in is the gear that you ride home in. And there's a lot of warning signs. First of all, you've got 4 different LEDs that are going to tell you what your battery life is. Once you've gone past that, then you're going to start noticing a decrease in speed of the front derailleur shift, so it'll shift a little bit slower in the front. And then finally, it'll get to the point where the front derailleur stops functioning, because that takes the most power. And then at that point, you actually still have some rear shifts in reserve, probably about 30 or 40 shifts left there.
Okay.
So, it's going to be hard to catch you completely off guard as far as that goes.
All right. Well, Devin, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And thanks for
Absolutely.
the ride.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
All right, John.